Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. Today I'm going to go through my list of all the different seeds that we're going to start in February. It's a pretty long list. February is fun. I do most of my initial seed starting in February. The most different varieties. In March I will grow a lot of a few varieties, but in February there's so many different types of plants that I start that I can't wait to share them with you. All right, so first one that we're gonna start in February is Bells of Ireland. Now, these are such a interesting flower. If you work in the flower industry, you know what they are, but a lot of people, just normal people, won't know what a Bell of Ireland looks like. I'll put pictures up of everything. But the Bells of Ireland are one of my favorites, interesting foliage plants that I can cut from out of my garden. And they generally bloom, they really do bloom, but they bloom, but they look like a foliage because they're all green. Bell Ireland, I suppose, is part of the way that looks, but the bell-shaped flowers on them, I guess it's the bracts, the flowers on the inside, but they're such an interesting shape. I love them, and so many people are intrigued by them. They don't see them often, so especially the farmers market, and I know that in the wholesale floral industry, a lot of florists like them. Right now, those seeds I just had to order a new round of them, but as soon as they come in, I'm gonna put them in the freezer. So they do benefit from having a cold period. So they will go in the freezer, and then in a few weeks when I I start seeding these, they'll be a lot happier and more apt to germinate. Bells of Ireland struggle sometimes to germinate, so just fair warning. The next one is Bupleurum. Now, if you were with me last fall, we seeded some Bupleurum out into the garden. It looks to me like we actually seeded some Larkspur and Bells of Ireland also. And it looks like we have some germination, but this is a matter of hedging my bets. I don't trust necessarily that all of those are gonna come up. We have a whole lot of birds and they like to eat seeds. So I'm gonna plant another succession of all of these that I planted out there already, just to make sure that I have what I want and what I need to be able to have a successful season. So Bupleurum is one of them. These plants, for me anyways, can get 4.5 feet tall, almost as tall as I am. I'm pretty short, mind you, but they get almost as tall as I do, and they have these. It's a sort of apple green color, and they have these yellow flowers on the very edge, these cap-shaped flowers, umbels at the top. They're just gorgeous, and they have such a springy, bright color that they look beautiful in the bouquets at the season that they're blooming. So it's late spring, early summer that these will be going, and it's basically the same time as the Larkspur. They make a really good contrasting bouquet ingredients to put together. The next one that we're gonna start is Black-Eyed Susans, or Rudbeckia. So if you have been here, like I said, for a while, you'll know that I had a whole row of Black-Eyed Susans out there in the field last year, and I left the crowns I cut them all back and left the crowns of the plants in there. Sort of an experiment to see if they will just regrow in the spring. I'm not sure that that's going to work, especially with the Sahara variety, which is my favorite. I think I have better option or better luck potential with the Indian Summer. The Indian Summer varieties are the great big classic Black-Eyed Susan, that school bus yellow color that is so bright and vibrant, and it stands out in a crowd. But those ones are a lot of times grown as a perennial in a lot of places, and I think I'm right on the cusp of that. But the Sahara variety, they're a hybrid, and they're usually grown as an annual. So I left them in there just in case they'll come back, but I'm also gonna start a whole round of seeds so that I can fill up that row in case they don't actually come back. I don't want to risk not having them because they're one of my absolute favorite flowers in the summertime. So I'm going to sow them, and whatever I don't end up using or needing out in the field, I will either take them to the farmer's market and sell the starts, or I will plant them in other places around the garden, or just give them away to family and friends. The next one is Amy or Dara. It's a wild carrot, but the Dara variety has dark brown burgundy sort of stem or flower colors, the umbels of them. They're just beautiful. I love them in a bouquet. These can grow back as a perennial flower, and I have some that come back every year in different spots around the garden, but I want to make sure that I have a whole bed of them. I might actually, if I have enough, I might actually plant some of these out into the edges of my gardens, and let them live there. We do, in my area, wild carrots or Queen Anne's lace. They can be, they are a weed and they grow wild, but these are different. It's a different color, and I just love them. The bees love them. You should see it in the season. When they're in bloom, they will be absolutely covered in the bees, and I enjoy that a lot. The next one is Larkspur. So we already talked about that. I've got some out there, but I'm going to grow some more. This particular variety is called Misty Lavender. It's a really soft gray lavendery color. I'm going to grow most of these. I also ordered some dark blue. There's very few plants that are actually blue, and this one is one of the closest to blue that is out there. So I'm gonna, as soon as that comes in, along with this one, they're gonna go again into the freezer. I want them to be in there for at least 10 days before I bring them out and sow the seed. Larkspur prefers to be direct sown, but like I said, I've got so many birds and critters that I can't really rely on that. So I'm going to start these from seed. Another one that I'm going to start in February is Feverfew. I do also need to order seed from that. I don't have any for some reason. But Feverfew, I sowed some last fall. I've only got a couple that germinated for some reason, so I have to go at it again. Ideally, they would be for me in this zone, ideally I would sow them in the fall, plant them out, and let them sit there all winter and grow. Feverfew is one that is very happy to self-sow out in the field. Last season I had so much Feverfew that I just didn't have time to get to, and it had gone to seed the year before, and it just popped up everywhere, absolutely everywhere, which I don't mind so much, except that it turned into a weed at some point. So there's a real strong need for me to control that this year so they don't just take over everything. Although they're lovely and I'd love to put them in bouquets. But Feverfew, the cute little white daisy flowers, they're fantastic cut flower. Okay, now this next group is one that I've had a lot of questions about. It's sort of a relatively unusual type flower, or at least not as well known. And it's called Lavatera or Lavatera, or however you want to say it. But it's these beautiful white hibiscus looking flowers. There's white. I have these pink, soft pink. Oh, I love these so much. And then there's another that's called Malapi. It's very similar, not exactly the same, but it's a great color. So I'm going a little harder on these this year. I said in a previous video for my plans for this year, I'm going to work towards more florist and wedding flowers so I can do more wholesale. Just because of my time management, I need to be able to try and do that rather than as much emphasis on the farmer's market. But these guys, they really do, I think they're the hibiscus family. They grow these beautiful stems and they'll start blooming from the bottom. I don't know if you can see, but there's these little, these are more flowers, and they kind of seem to work a bit like cosmos. You cut the stem, whatever's blooming, they'll only last a couple days, but all the other buds that are on that stem, they will continue to bloom until they're all bloomed out. They do really well, especially for event work. And they can be 3 or 4 foot tall plants a lot of the time. And they will continue to put out stems. I can cut them all and they will put out more stems. They're really, really fantastic. I especially love the pink blush color of this particular one. And these guys, if they're happy where they're at, they also do really well self-seeding. I had a whole bunch of them pop up all on their own last year, which was amazing. So I'm really excited about these. I've grown them for several years now, but only in small quantities. And this year I'm dedicating a lot more space to these because they're just so pretty and so good for wholesale floristry, especially for wedding work. I can't wait to grow these. I can't wait to show you guys how well they do and what they look like in real life. Okay, now the next plant that I'm gonna grow is stock. I have a whole bunch of different varieties of stock, but much like the Snapdragons, I'm gonna do these in 2 successions. So I've already started my first round of Snapdragons, and I'm gonna do another one later on. And this will be my first sowing of stock, and I'll do this batch now, or in February, and then I'll do the next batch in March, so that I have a staggered bloom set. They're stock, I don't know how many times I've talked about them, but they are one of my absolute favorite flowers. The first year that I grew them, I struggled to get, sorry, my nose itches. I struggled to get germination, and then I struggled to get long stems. I still couldn't quite figure out what was wrong that year, but the last few years they have been just amazing. One of the things to keep in mind with these guys is they really do, at least in my area, need some staking. They will flop over in a heartbeat, and then you'll have less than ideal blooms. So I intend to use netting to hold these up from the very, very beginning of their tiny little lives. And then, so the different varieties that I'm starting in this round is iron apricot. They can have really long panicles, and it says apricot, but it's a very soft color. It's not a strong apricot peachy color. It's very soft. And then I have Cat's Double White. I've said this a few times, but I'm going to grow a lot more white flowers than I have in the past, mostly for wedding work, wholesale. So I have Cat's Double White. This one is really, really good. It'll give me 18-inch stems with 6 or 8 or sometimes even 12-inch bloom panicles, and I seem to get more double flowers out of the Cats than I do in some of the others. And then I just have a pastel mix that I will grow alongside the rest of these, that I will probably use most of this for the farmer's market, because mixes, it's harder to sell a mix on wholesale. Most florists are looking for specific colors, but this will go really well with all of the other colors of everything that should be blooming at that time in the garden. Now the next, like I said, there's a whole lot of different types of plants that I'm growing this year. So I'm going to grow, the next one is celosia. I'm going to grow again, I think a couple of successions of celosia, because they come on strong, but their bloom window is relatively short. They want to go to seed really fast. I can, and I've been successful in, if I can get all the bloom heads off, they will put out more, but I'm gonna lean more on succession planting of these. But the varieties that I got, this is a new one from Johnny Seed. It's Shimmer OG, whatever that means. I'm really looking forward to it's organic. I'm really looking forward to this one. It reminds me a lot of the colors that Florette was putting out last year. I don't think she's selling any seeds this year, so I've got this Shimmer, and then I've also got a couple left over from the Florette sale last year, the Dusty Rose. Isn't that so pretty? and pink chenille. This one is a plume type variety, and these ones are more the brain or the single stem, but they're such an interesting shape that they'll do really well, I think, for the florist side of things, where this plume type shape will do better for the farmer's market. People that aren't familiar with this sort of shape of flower, they're a little, they have interesting reactions to it. Some don't know what to think, some don't like it, some think it's fascinating and want it all. It's really fun to watch people's reactions with more unusual flowers. The next type of plant that I'm gonna start seeds from in February is basil. I've talked about basil a lot. It's also one of my absolute favorite flowers or plants for scent in the garden. The two different varieties that I'm gonna grow is this Amaretto, however you say it. The foliage on this one is more of a darker green with kind of purpley shades mixed into it. It's really quite beautiful. And the other one is the Mrs. Burns lemon citrus basil. This is by far, I've said it 100 times, my favorites of all the scents of all the foliages that I grow, and I grow several. I have another video, I don't know if it's coming out before or after this, that talks about my favorite scented flowers and my favorite scented foliages for your cutting gardens. And Mrs. Burns lemon basil, oh, it's just so good. I can just stick my face in the whole patch and just be happy. So those are the two basils. Basil is a good foliage in general. A lot of herbs are. It's a little more delicate. It likes to wilt, so you have to cut it at the right time after it starts to put out blooms and when the stems get kind of rigid. But if you cut it at the right time and you give it plenty of time to rehydrate, it'll be just gorgeous in your bouquets. The next thing is bee balm. So lemon mint is the variety that I have. There's another one that I also grew last year that was slightly darker flowered, but I love these. They also are another herby plant. They make fantastic foliage and they put up flowers at the top that look beautiful in a bouquet. They're easy to grow. They will, if you cut them, they will put up more stems. They're a really great foliage slash filler flower for your bouquets. And I'll start a batch of these this month. Okay, so the next one is asters. I am doing, I think, an entire row of asters. I'm doing a whole row of asters this season. These are some of my favorite flowers. I haven't given them a good shake. It's good of a shake as I should have the last few years, but I'm gonna go for it this year because the flower shapes are so beautiful. I've had some florists ask specifically for asters, so I'm gonna grow them. I also have a wedding for a dear friend this summer that should coincide with when these are blooming, so I wanna make sure that I have enough. Okay, so the varieties that I'm gonna grow, I have a king-sized apricot. They almost look like chrysanthemum blooms, the shape of them, but they're really beautiful, and the apricot color is always good for weddings. This one is a new one. It's called Soufflé Light Pink. I've had a couple of pink asters in the years past, but this particular one is brand new to me, this color especially. The thing about asters that I have found, at least in my climates, in my garden, is that they suffer a little bit from if they get rained on too much, they can discolor a little bit. So I don't have a lot of white, and I don't have, I struggle a little bit with the lighter colors, but I think I might actually put some cover over the whole thing and see if I can protect them that way. So Soufflé Light Pink, Lady Coral Lavender. I I really like lavender. There's an interesting combination of flowers that I put together this time of year when these are blooming, and it's purples with the brownish rudbeckia. I know it sounds weird. I'll find a picture, but it's really pretty and interesting, and I really like to build that bouquet in particular for myself. I have a few customers that request it, so I made sure that I had some purple to make sure I can do that. Valkyrie chamois, I think that's how you say it. It has a different sort of shape of flower. It has more longer petals. It's really interesting. It's a similar soft, creamy color, that chamois color, as some of the others, but the shape of it's different and it's interesting, and it, again, grabs people's attention. The next one I'm gonna try again is the Tower of Violet, which I think that's actually the one that I put with the brown. That's a deeper purple. But either way, it's gorgeous. I love this color. And then I just have a few seeds of the Tower Yellow, which is a really good one that goes well with lavender and the softer colors. So asters, I'm going in on the asters this year. So hopefully they'll do well, better than they have if we have the right conditions this year. You never know. It's always a risk, a little bit of a gamble every year, depending on what you're trying to grow. Okay, I still have a decent number of different seeds I'm gonna grow. This one is agrostemma or corn cockle. The varieties Ocean Pearls. It's a white. It's a really easy one to grow, simple, beautiful. It's one of the hardy annuals that will bloom a little bit earlier than everything else. I really like it. It's not particularly valuable, but for me, it adds that sparkle, that airy sort of element in my bouquets that I always am after. And then this one is another Ammi. This one's a white dill. So this one, like the Larkspur, the Bupleurum, I'm gonna put into the freezer for a couple of weeks before I sow. But this one in particular is requested by florists. Ammi, it's kind of fussy to grow or to maintain. It'll grow just fine, but it's a little bit tricky to know exactly when to cut it and to keep it upright because they get really tall and want to flop over. You want to catch them before all the pollen starts to fall, which is harder than it would seem. But I'm going to grow a big section of this and hopefully sell wholesale. They're really beautiful. There's big frothy white blooms that go really lovely inside a bouquet. They almost take the place of like a baby's breath. They're more interesting in my opinion, but yeah, we're gonna try that. I've grown it before. It's just a little bit frustrating for me. All right, so I know it's a long one. We're getting there, stretch it out. The next one we're gonna grow is honeywort or cerinthe. This one is one of my absolute favorite, I say it a lot, don't I? It's one of my absolute favorite foliages. It can be both green and silver and purple and blue all at the same time. It's just such a beautiful plant. The stems, you can get pretty long. They look almost succulent, almost like a succulent, but they prefer cooler weather, so they're certainly not a succulent. But they have these beautiful stems that are green and silver, almost like a eucalyptus, only a little bit more green. And then it puts out these little arcing flower heads with these bell-shaped flowers that can be the most gorgeous plum purple that, oh, it's so good. And they sort of fade with blue and there's a little bit of yellow. They're fantastic and easy to grow for the most part. They also want to be propped up, so I'll probably use netting to hold them up. If you hear the tractor, John's out there working on the spot where we're gonna grow a bunch of woodies on the north end of the field. Okay, the next group of flowers we're gonna start is statice. Statice, I have a love love-hate relationship with status. I really love it. It's fantastic in a bouquet. It does a really good job of caging your bouquets, and it has lots of blooms, and it dries beautifully. But I have a hard time getting to it at the right stage. When you're cutting it, you got to make sure that all the blooms have bloomed, but it hasn't gone too far, and it's my own struggle. Most people do just fine with it. It's just me. But I will grow it every year if I have the opportunity. So there's a couple, I'm not growing this one, but these are the varieties I'm gonna give a shot to. Basically, I'm gonna grow 2.5 varieties. I'm gonna grow this Seeker White. I want some white status. These ones in particular I have to get at the right time, otherwise they'll start to turn brown, and I don't want that. But they're really good for floral work, or for like wedding work. And then these are just a couple different packets of apricot. Apricot is a really, really neutral, classic color that goes with any color palette for the most part. It goes really well for wedding work, a lot of peaches and soft pinks and pastels. It goes well with all of that. It also goes really well with fall decor, and it will bloom later on in the season. And it's just a neutral. It goes, like I said, it goes with just about anything. So I'm gonna grow a bunch of this. And it's also, again, one of the best dried flowers out there. You just cut it, dry it, and it'll go forever. I do have a Johnny's formula mix, which has lots of brighter colors, purples and yellows and blues, that I think that I'm gonna grow in one of my gardens, not in the field, because I still want to be able to have those colors to dry, but I don't necessarily want to take up bed space. I'm cutting back on how much of the dried flowers type plants that I'm going to grow. I'm just going to do 20 feet of status and then 20 feet of straw flowers instead of 40 feet of both. Just don't need that much, and I won't be able to keep up with it. And then the other one I have is this rat tail status, or Limonium Saworii. So I don't know how you say it. You can read it. It's this one is really interesting. It got a lot of people's attention. It has these, instead of being just a bloom head at the top of the stem, it has this big, long, reaching flower head that's this beautiful purple color, and it just puts out. It's just such an interesting shape. At least in my experience, it does not rebloom like normal status will. It just won't last that long. It kind of shoots out all the spikes, and then it's kind of done for the season. So I'm not going to grow a huge amount of this, but it's really, really fascinating, and it adds an element into the bouquets that most people have never seen. And if you've been around for any length of time, or even in this video, I've talked about that. Something a little bit different goes a long way. Okay, now the next one up is straw flower. We were just talking about this, and I have lots of different varieties of straw flower, but I'm gonna pare it back. I'm only gonna grow a couple. Straw flowers for me, they grow fantastic. They're cut and come again. They'll get 6 feet tall and just grow and grow and grow and grow and put out hundreds of stems. Like each plant, I can probably get 25 stems of straw flower off of them. So I don't need a huge amount of any of them to get what I'm looking for. So I will grow the apricot. That's always a good one. This bright rose, I really like this one. It's a really bright, well, pink color, but it goes, it's almost like that carmine gomphrena. It's this pop of bright color that I love. There's a couple other, there's a purple red and a copper red that I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna grow, but I have a silvery rose that I certainly will. It's a very pale pink and white that I love. I may be able to grow 4 different varieties and get plenty of flowers, but the fewer the better. So I'm still deciding on that, but straw flowers will definitely be sown in February. And then, oh goodness, I'm trying to put these all in this basket over here. They are starting to not fit. We've got a lot of seeds. So then the next one that I am gonna grow is Shiso. Most people will know Shiso for the edible green that it is, but surprising or not, it makes a fantastic foliage for a cut flower garden. Sort of like the mint or the basil, you have to let the stems get sturdy before you cut it, but man, it's got just gorgeous, big, fluffy leaves that they look so good in a bouquet. It's surprising, but beautiful. So I'm gonna start some Shiso. Mahogany Splendor Hibiscus. These are my go-to late summer fall foliage. I adore these. If you've seen any of my fall market bouquet videos or fall wedding videos, this color is so good. I mean, mahogany is the color. It's a hibiscus. It's not hardy, so it's an annual here, but it will grow from seed to 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide by the end of the season. They're really remarkable. And they do take all season before you can actually cut from them. The stems need to be pretty sturdy. When you shake them, they can't flop or they won't hold up in a vase. They will not hydrate. They need to be sturdy. But once they are, they almost look like Japanese maples. The leaves on them are so delicate and that maple shape, they're just amazing. I love them so much. And that color is unbeatable in the fall, the late summer and fall, when the last of everything is going, your dahlias are blooming, and it's so good. When everybody's reaching for those fall colors, this one fits the bill. Okay, and then the last thing that we're gonna start in February is more Snapdragons. We talked about it earlier. I have one set going now. This batch is gonna be my later season. Everything that I started already is my groups 1 and 2. Early season, they like the shorter day lengths, they like the cooler temperatures, so they're started now. And then in February, I will start the next round. And these are the warmer season or all season varieties that do okay with the longer days and the warmer temperatures. So I'm gonna grow Madam Butterfly Ivory. This is, it's like, same as with my pretty much all the Snapdragons that I grow, not quite, but most. It's a azalea type. It has a big fluffy flower rather than the typical Snapdragon flower that you're used to. They're fantastic. And this ivory does really well. It holds up in all kinds of weather. So I'm gonna grow the ivory and then the Madam Butterfly Red. The red, obviously, it's not a typical wholesale type color, but it does really well at the farmer's market. And it goes with everything else. When the weather heats up, the colors heat up and it just goes so nicely and it grows beautifully. Another one is this Early Sunrise. It's a mix, but it's really, there's some apricots and yellows, and it's a really warm blend of Snapdragons, and I love this one. This one will go really nicely with all these other colors. I have a deep rose that is also really beautiful. The color is the way it sounds. It's pink, but it's a deep pink color, and it will complement everything else that is growing at that time of year, because these will bloom. The Snapdragons that I've got there will bloom May into June, and then these will bloom July, heading towards August. They don't really like the full heat and hot summer, so August they kind of peter out, but these ones do tolerate the heat more, so they'll do better out there. And yeah, we'll have Snapdragons. You always want that line flower, that spike in your bouquets, and these fit that category perfectly. I know this is a long video. We've got a lot of planting, seed starting to do in February. It's kind of crazy with it being below freezing outside, and I'm talking about planting all of these, even the warm weather lovers like the like celosia. It's super cool. I love it. I can't wait to get my hands into all this dirt. Just a reminder, I'm in a zone 8B. My last frost is around April 7th or 8th. So these are all that 6 to 8 weeks prior to. So just keep that in mind when you decide what plants you're gonna grow in February. Do the math based on your hardiness zone and when your last frost is. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you learned something. Leave a thumbs up, a comment, a question, and subscribe if you haven't. And then I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.